Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you've tuned into another live edition of the LockerGnome Daily Report, or TLDR for short. It's an hour's worth of me, Chris Pirillo, and you can get the full hour if you become a patron by heading over to chrispirillo.com. If you're not a patron, well, then you can get bits and pieces of TLDR, like the first part, where I'm going to talk about 3 expectations I have for the Rogue One Star Wars story movie that is going to be released in less than a year now. In December, or can I now say Star Wars-cember? I think we should rename the month, if only because today we discovered that the next episode for the next trilogy of movies, episode 8, is going to be released in December 2017. So it's like Star Wars is going to be a part of the winter holiday season forevermore. I hope. I can't claim that. I'm just saying that the next 2 Star Wars films we're going to see are going to be released in December. After I'm done talking about these expectations that I have for Rogue One, which is the next Star Wars movie to be released before Episode 8, I'm going to go into today's Pirillo picks, and you're going to love it. I can say them within it. It's going to be an unboxing, a live unboxing. And then after that, I'm going to be answering questions with my patrons and then talking about today's Geek news. I don't really have a ton of expectations in relation to Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story formerly known as an anthology film. Just like I didn't really have a terrible amount of expectations for Episode 7. And I was happy about that. I tend to walk into a movie not thinking that I'm going to like it or not like it. I just experience it. And I approach pretty much every bit of media that way, whether I'm talking about a comic book series, whether I'm talking about a book, a TV show, movie, whatever it happens to be. I don't want expectations. I'm excited, yes, but the moment that I set lofty expectations is the very moment that I'm inevitably going to be disappointed. It's one of the reasons, Obi-Wan of the reasons. I was trying to make lemonade out of lemons there. That was a verbal typo. One of the reasons why, I'm anticipating expanding my appreciation for everything Star Wars, but one of the reasons I do not like following rumors or believing in rumors. They're exciting to think about, but the moment I kind of hang my hat on a rumor is the moment that I'm really setting myself up for disappointment. So, one of my expectations is that it's going to be different. Not just because Disney has said, this is going to be different. Well, that's my voice for Disney, or someone at Disney there, who inevitably has a voice like that. That has to be. I expect it to be different. Remember, we're talking about what is likely going to be a standalone film, what is certainly not episodic in nature. It's not a part of a trilogy. It is just a story. And so I expect it's going to be different, completely different than anything we've seen from at least the Star Wars movies, the films. I expect that. Absolutely. Despite what Disney has said about the film potentially containing no Jedi, I still expect to be immersed within the Star Wars galaxy, like feeling like, okay, I'm not just watching a movie, I'm watching Star Wars play out in this different way. It's going to give Disney a chance to expand their horizons, potentially to take risks, and just show us another side of the galaxy that may not be related to Skywalker. So I'm very much looking forward to that and looking forward to it being different. Now, despite Disney saying that there's likely going to be no Jedi, no Sith, no Force, nothing like that, I still expect there to be a few touch points that would make us feel like we're watching a Star Wars movie. Obviously, and we've known this is not a spoiler, Rogue One is going to be the story about how the rebels, or those who are working with the rebels, stole the Death Star plans, the original Death Star. So, this is something I expect to see played out. We obviously know it's the Death Star and the relation to the Death Star. So I'd expect to see a few cultural, Star Wars culture touch points in there. But if nothing else, Darth Vader. And I think if there was a character that could work for this film, Darth Vader would be it. They've brought Darth Vader into Star Wars Rebels, and I've appreciated that, the way they've brought Vader in. Vader's obviously got some outstanding new comic arcs that are well within canon, that are playing out very, very, very well. But I would expect that if we saw a character from this period of time, it would be Vader. The reason I say that is because he's masked. And if you brought in any other character or, apart from maybe a C-3PO, and I don't know about that, or even an R2-D2, and I don't know about that. R2 maybe. But Vader I would expect, if only because it's Death Star menacing the Empire, the Presence, and a villain that was around for A New Hope. If there is a villain, or if the Death Star is not seen as or I guess the Death Star plan seen as the MacGuffin. So I would expect Vader. And I'm not, if there's a rumor, I'm not aware of it. I don't know. I would just expect it. Number one, Vader's marketable. Number two, he's masked. He would have been in that period and potentially at play. So that's one thing I would expect from this movie. Possibly no lightsaber battles, but definitely Vader's presence. I think an expectation I have is, since this movie is taking place before A New Hope, it would be considered, in my mind, a prequel. This could very well be a suitable prequel, a more suitable prequel, if executed better than I thought the Star Wars prequels were executed. I'm not slagging the prequels. I'm just saying that in terms of editing, in terms of cheesiness, in terms of these kind of head-scratching moments, I had a lot of those moments personally when I watched the prequels, episode 1, 2, and 3. But if this makes a much more suitable prequel, it just, in my head, changes my Star Wars number from 5, 7, 6, 4, 3, 1, 2. That's my Star Wars phone number, because it's like a phone number here in the US. You get 7 digits. It's my phone number. It's kind of funny. So it could make a very, very suitable prequel if executed well enough. And I expect that. I would expect it would be a very suitable prequel. They've got some big shoes to fill in terms of the way episode 7 was largely received by people. But I also expect this story to be very novelesque or comic-like in a way. So, for example, the Star Wars Annual, I talked about this in one of the Pirillo picks the other day, is a comic. It's a standalone comic. You can get it right now. The Star Wars Annual, at least the one that was just released this time. It's just one story, and there's elements of Star Wars in it, but it wasn't like I was that familiar with any of the characters or many of the characters that were in the Star Wars Annual. It's a quick read, but it was still Star Wars. I still felt like I was reading something that was in the Star Wars galaxy. Just like in a novel, you may be familiar with scenes and places and names, but for the most part, for the Star Wars universe to expand, we've got to look beyond the Skywalkers. We've got to look beyond some of the things that we've been somewhat familiar with. So I expect it's going to be novelesque that way, or comic-like in the sense that it's not necessarily that we're being thrown into a series of names and characters, maybe a situation we're familiar with, or just thought of like, I wonder what happened there, or I wonder what happened. I wonder how they got the Death Star plans. Now that gap is kind of being filled in, much like it might have been in a comic arc, or just a single comic, or in a novel. So I have expectations. I wouldn't say that they are lofty expectations, but they're expectations nonetheless. I'm going to move on now to my picks for today. Oh, sorry, I was holding it upside down. Is BB hungry? No, BB-8. Smuggler's Bounty. I got my boxes today. Yes, boxes, or the plural of boxes, boxin'. I got my boxin'. I'm going to be unboxing the boxin' here in just a few minutes. If you're watching live, you get pretty much watch it right now. Everybody else, you can tune in to that separate video to see what's in this month's, this issue, this episode of Smuggler's Bounty. After that, as I said, I'm going to dive into geeky Q&A with my community, as well as covering today's geek news. If you want the full TLDR, you can head over to chrispirillo.com. Today's free podcast highlight was brought to you by all of my active patrons from chrispirillo.com. If you want access to the full TLDR episodes, both audio, video, past, present, and future, which can be up to an hour long or longer, with even more tech insight from me every weekday, plus other bonus content without ads, and support me at the same time, you can sign up to become one of my supernomies too. This is just a brief taste of what I'm producing for you daily. Again, get more through chrispirillo.com.